he has to make. So hang out with good people, go to school, work hard to get good grades, get a job. Those are life control commands. If you do those things, life turns out better for you, right? If you do those things, life turns out better for you. Well, I thought of a third category of command, and so there's self-control, there's life control. The third category of command is the remote control. Remote control commands are like this. Son, get me my drink. Son, turn the TV down. Or something along those lines. Sometimes parents ask kids, just do this thing because I've told you to do it. There's absolutely no reason for it. And the only motivation for doing that is that if you don't do it, something will go wrong for you, right? So these are the different kinds of commands that people have to deal with as kids. But the bottom line is that at least in the first two categories of commands, your parents literally do know better. They do. They've been around longer, and they've made mistakes, and they want to help you learn how to not make those mistakes. There may be one or two areas of your life where you think you know better. There may be one or two areas of your life where you do know better, but there are many areas of life where they actually know better. So, God gives us this command to say, honor your father and mother, because they actually do know better. Okay, I'll show you this. I was thinking about skipping it, but here you go, one more video clip.
Lisa's becoming very obsessive. This morning, I caught her trying to dissect her own raincoat.
I know. And this perpetual motion machine she made today is a joke. It just keeps going faster and faster. Lisa, get in here. In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics.
Okay. This is just about obedience, so I thought I'd throw it in there. Okay, so in this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics. Sometimes even Homer Simpson knows better, all right? So that's a prerequisite for our understanding. Sometimes the person in authority over you actually knows better, okay? Hopefully that's sinking in, because now we're getting to the second level of depth. As we dig a little farther, I have to ask this next question. Why do we need the motivation? Why do we need the motivation? If they do know better, right? And if they've told us to do something, right? Why do we need the motivation to do it? Why can't we just do it? When I was a kid, I remember my mom was mortified once because she had a parent-teacher conference with my teacher, and my teacher was telling my mom about this particular day in school when at lunchtime I took my lunch bag and sat under the table and was eating my lunch. And not only was I sitting under the table and eating my lunch, but I had coerced another child to join me. And so there were the two of us eating underneath the table, and so my very traditional kindergarten teacher was mortified that I would be doing something so antisocial, so outside of the box, so weird, and just violating all kinds of authority, tradition kinds of commands. She thought that level of rebellion was just unconscionable. And so she was telling my mom all those bad things about that. Well, I had other problems. So last week I told you about some issues that I had with perfectionism in school. I didn't tell you about the issues I had with rebellion in school. Excuse me. But I tell you, one of the things that I really had a problem with is I talked in class all the time. I know it's hard to believe, but I talked in class all the time, constantly, and I had teachers that had these rules. If you talked without getting permission and it was disruptive to the class, then you had to go and put your name on the board. And then if you talked again, you had to go and put a check mark next to your name. And then if you talked again, you had to go up and put another check mark next to your name. And by the end of the day, the number of check marks you had next to the name was the level of severity of punishment that you would receive. And in my particular class, there were 3 check marks. And if you got 3 check marks next to your name, then you got a blue slip that went home to your mom and dad, and they had to sign it acknowledging that their child had been disobedient in school. And every time I got 2 checks next to my name, I would be like freaking out for the rest of the day. Because if I got one more check, that meant a blue slip was going home to my mom and dad. And I know my mom and my dad would have hated to sign their name on the thing that said their child had been disruptive. But I got 2 checks like that. There was nothing holding me back from name, check, check. And then it was like, okay, let's get serious. let's freak out. And then I would make a mistake and quite often have to bring a blue slip home to my parents. And then, then as I got a little older, my mom tried doing other sort of motivational tactics on me. She would tell me that I needed to clean my room, and if I cleaned my room and kept it clean for a whole week, at the end of the week, she'd give me a quarter. I thought, wow, a quarter, that was awesome, because, I was dumb. So I thought a quarter would be good motivation, and so I'd try to keep my room clean all week long so I could get that quarter. And then one week I failed to keep my room clean and realized that I didn't really miss the quarter all that much. And so then the next time my mom came up with this idea, it was like 50 cents. And then the next time it was like 75 cents. The next time it was $1. And the next time there were punishments added. If I kept my room clean, I got $1. If I didn't keep my room clean, then there'd be some type of punishment. And lo and behold, it just happened all the time that I would not clean my room unless there were some type of reward or punishment actually attached to it. Here's the deal. Why do we need motivation to obey? Why can't we just do it? Maybe you're with me on this. Maybe you can think of times when you've needed a little bit of kick in the pants to actually do something. Well, you know what the Bible says? The Bible would call that kind of attitude by the word rebellion. And I know many of us don't think rebellion is, okay, the kid is talking in class, or the kid is failing to clean his room, but that's what it is. In fact, I'm going to give you my definition of rebellion today, okay? So you might want to write this down. My definition of rebellion goes like this. Even though I have no proof, I think I know better than the authority. Even though I have no proof, I think I know better than the authority. This is how it plays out. My teacher says, sit at your table and eat your lunch. And I say, I don't have any proof that you're telling me the right way to do this, but I'm going to just decide that I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to sit under the table and I'm going to convince other kids to join me. My teacher says, the rule here is that you don't talk out of turn. And I say, well, I think I know better. I think in this particular instance, it's okay for me to talk. Now, I'm not rationalizing this at the time. I'm not thinking it through because it's so ingrained in who I am. I'm just naturally, constantly flowing with this kind of mindset that it doesn't matter to me what other people tell me. I actually think I know better, right? And I think all of us are in that boat, at least on some level. And it gets really bad when it comes to your parents, because they actually do know better. Don't hang out with those kinds of kids. And then you do, and then you get yourself in all kinds of trouble, and then 20 years later, you're telling your mom or your dad, you were right. I should have listened. And then you tell your kids, don't hang out with those kinds of kids. And the question of whether or not they listen